to my channel. As always, thank you for joining me and thank you for watching these videos. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share these videos. Right, what are we doing today? Let's see. Oh, we're in Scottsdale in my hotel room, and the lighting is terrible. And whatever noise you hear, that is airplane taking off and landing, as I am literally right outside this airport in Scottsdale. But today we are going to talk about pilot scheduling. Being a pilot is not a 9 to 5 job. We don't punch a clock at the beginning and at the end of the day. It's not the way it works. What we have instead are flight schedule. It tells us where we are going, who we are flying with, and how long we are expected to be on duty. The type of scheduling a pilot ends up with depends on the type of company he or she is working for. It depends on their seniority. It depends on the agreement between the union and the company. It depends on the type of plane he or she is flying. Most large companies in aviation, such as FedEx, UPS, Delta, United, Southwest, American, they're all represented by Alpha. Alpha is one of the largest aviation union in the United States. In other cases, some companies have what's called Internal Pilot Association. It is a group of pilots who speak on behalf of their colleagues to management, addressing any challenges they may think is necessary to be dealt with by management in order to keep the pilot group happy. For this discussion to make sense, I will break it up into two parts: the unionized company and the non-unionized ones. In researching this video, I learned that most large companies have an agreement with the union specifying how many days per month every pilot must fly. In some cases, the company, in agreement with the union, will tell the pilots how they must go about earning these days or flying the agreed amount of days. In some cases, the companies really don't care how the pilot accomplished these 14, 15, or 16 days, or whatever the agreement is between the union and the company. Some of these agreements also stipulates what type of pilot is considered a senior pilot. This is very important because the more senior you are, you get the best bids. The best bids are usually the best trips. The more junior you are, you get the worst trips. You get the red eye, you get the early morning, you get the one that finish late at night. It is terrible, but it is fair. If you're new, you shouldn't be able to get the good trips. And a senior person is someone who has been with the company for 10 plus years, and in some cases, it's 15 plus years. A junior person is someone who has been with the company for 1 to 3 years. So here is how a unionized company work when it comes to pilot schedule. I'm going to use myself as an example. Say I live in Portland, Oregon, and I work for Company A. And every day, Company A has a flight that goes from Portland, Oregon to Los Angeles. It sits there for for 2 hours and it returned to Portland, Oregon. I am also very senior with this company. I've been with them for 15 plus years. I will get that flight when I bid for it. Let me explain why. Every month, the company will put out the flight schedule. They will say, these are the flights we have scheduled. The pilots will then log into the system and select the flights that they want to do. This process is called bidding. Once everyone has selected their flights, all that information goes back to the computer. And the computer does its thing and it spits out every pilot schedule. The pilots that are most senior get the great flights if they bid for those flights. And that is fair. If you put the time in, you should get the reward. It is unfair if you have someone that's been with a company for 5 years or less getting the good flights when he or she has not put the time in. There may also be an agreement that states if a pilot has been with the company for 10 or 12 plus years, he or she may only need to fly 5 days a month instead of the agreed upon 14 or 15 days a month for those who have been at the company for less time. In some cases, the company will either let the pilot choose how he or she make up these 14, 15, or 16 days, or the company will present options to the pilot to make up these days. If I'm a senior pilot and I have to fly, say 10 days a month, and I want to do the same trip back and forth between Portland and LA for 10 days straight, I can do that because all the company cares about is that I make my 10 days and I'm senior enough to get that trip. In 135 especially, when you look at the schedule, every pilot is flying an average of 16 days a month. And the reason it is like this is because unlike the airlines, which is considered scheduled flying, that is to say, the airline, the FAA, and the passengers, they have all agreed that the plane will leave airport A at this time to go to airport B at that time. That's scheduled flying. It is a known event. 135/91 private charter, corporate charter, business jet flying, whatever you want to call it, is totally different. That is unscheduled. That is to say, the pilot has no idea where he or she is going or where he or she is even starting until you actually get your schedule. For this reason, 135 companies tend to tell the pilots how they will achieve this 16 days. Some of the larger companies such as NetJets, FlexJet, JetEdge, Wheels Up present the pilot with an option of schedules. They may say, okay, you can work 7 days on, 7 days off. You can work 8 days on, 7 days off. Or you can do the whole thing in one shot and work 15 days on and 13 days off. Now, it is extremely difficult to get people to want to be on the road for 15 days consistently, concurrently, all in one shot. So what the company would do sometimes is offer a financial incentive. If you decide to work the 15 days and the 13-day off, they may pay you an additional $200 a month just so you can do it. A lot of guys like to do it in one shot, then you're home for 13 days. Some people like doing the 7 on and the 7 off. Some like doing the 8 and 7. It depends on what your personal preference is. But in my experience, at the end of the day, you need to fly between 14, 15, or 16 days per month. And it makes sense. There is absolutely no way a company will allow you to have more time off than work days. That just that's not going to work. The company isn't going to be in business for much longer. Yeah. The other thing unionized company has to contend with is the size and type of airplane a pilot is flying. If you fly a Boeing 777, a Boeing 757, or an Airbus A380, these are long haul planes. These are the planes that cross the Atlantic and fly all over the world. It is unreasonable to expect someone that's doing that type of flying, which is very difficult to do, very strenuous psychologically, to do that 16 or 15 or 14 days a month, depending on the agreement between the union and that airline. Instead, there is a separate agreement for those who fly those wide body, long range aircraft. Some of them may only have to fly 10 days a month. Some of them may only have to fly 5 days a month. And there is an additional agreement to where once the pilot traverse so many time zone, he or she has to be given adequate amount of time to recuperate before they hop on another flight to come back to the US. Usually it's between 24 and 48 hours of rest time in that foreign country before the pilot is certified and qualified to take another plane from that foreign country back to the US. Yeah, that is the unionized part of pilot scheduling. The ununionized part is like it's sung. It is the wild, wild west. The only thing that controls it is the FAA rest rules requirement, which, by the way, that is overarching, even for the unionized companies. For example, let's say I placed a bid in and the computer system realized that if it were to give me this bid, I would violate the FAA rest rules. It will not give me that schedule. The the non-unionized companies typically offers you ridiculous schedules: 13 days on, 12 days off, 10 days on, 5 days off. There is very little care or concern for the pilots. There is also a schedule where if you're flying for a small cargo company, typically they are flying FedEx feeders or UPS feeders. What this company does is, I'll give you an example to explain this. It's much easier. Let's say you're living in a small town and you have a small airport and you order a package from Amazon. Have you ever wondered how that package get to you? Here is how. The Amazon Prime plane, UPS or FedEx plane will take it to the big airport. Let's say in this case, the big airport is Sacramento. It gets there. It gets to the processing center. It get out there. In Sacramento, there is a smaller plane. It's usually it's either a single engine turboprop or a multi-engine piston. That smaller plane is called a feeder. That feeder is how your package get from the big airport in Sacramento to your smaller airport, whether it's in Wairika, Crescent City, or Eureka. That's how you get your Amazon ordered package. Those feeder pilots, their schedule is either from Monday through Friday, and in some cases, they will work on Saturday. They would get to their plane on Monday morning, get get it loaded, fly to the destination, sit there all day, and about 5 or 6 in the evening, the FedEx truck or the UPS truck or whatever cargo they are flying will show up. They load it on the plane and fly back to their bases. Those pilots have is a 5 day or a 6 day schedule. I did it twice. I did it where I flew from Austin, Texas to no, from Lubbock, Texas to Austin, Texas. I did that for 6 months. And then I did it in Wichita, where I flew from Great Bend, Kansas to Wichita. And in those cases, those are considered outstation. So I was the only pilot. If I didn't fly, the cargo didn't go. But my schedule was from Monday through Friday. I left at night on Monday about 7, go down to Austin, they offload it, I load it back, and I fly back to Lubbock probably about 3, 4 in the morning. That was my schedule for that route, and it was similar when I did the same thing from Great Bend, Kansas to Wichita, Kansas. And finally, the last type of schedule a pilot have is whether you are flying for a private owner, someone who is wealthy. He or she decides, I want to buy a plane because I'm tired of going through TSA or whatever. They just want the flexibility of flying. These can be tricky. If you get a really, really good owner, he or she will put out a monthly schedule and you know what you're doing for the month. And if the owner is someone who don't fly a lot, you may end up flying maybe 3, 4 times a month. But in that 3 or 4 times a month, you may go on for maybe 2 days here, maybe 3 days here, maybe 5 days here. But it's not a lot of flying. And then there are the other owners who just flies all the time. You are literally on standby, on call 24/7. They don't give you a schedule, thus you have no idea when he or she may want to fly. You literally live your life inside of theirs because you are at home, unable to go anywhere, unable to do anything, unable to make any plans with your family. This is the worst schedule for any pilot because you have no life. Your work is your life, and your life is your work. This is not the schedule any pilot wants. What I've observed in these instances, such individuals who buy the planes and expect the pilot to sit around and wait and don't have a life have a high turnover rate. They are always looking for new pilots because people eventually leave. There is this thing called the diminishing marginal utility of money. And it states, when it's theorized, that at some point in everyone's life, money no longer matters because it doesn't matter how much you're being paid if you don't have a good quality of life. And pilots who are forced to live their life based on their owner eventually leave because they want a life, irrespective of how much money he or she is being paid. All right, I think that's it for this one. I hope this video was helpful. I hope it was informative. And if you guys have any comments, please leave them below and I will respond to them promptly. As always, I ask you to like, subscribe, and share these videos so we can get this content out to more people. Because the YouTube algorithm have told me most of you who watch these videos are not subscribers. Please subscribe and share them with your friend. I do enjoy making these videos because I get to give people a behind the scene look at a pilot life. YouTube is full of videos with people landing and taking off and glorifying pilot life. My goal is to give you an in-depth insight into what it's like to be a pilot if you choose to do this career. That's it for this one. Thank you for watching. Until next time, be good.